Hi, students. Welcome back. So today we are going to give an introduction of the human body. All right, so let me share the slides. Where is sharing? Share. Let me do the sharing. Share. I think that's this one. Okay, share. All right, I think that's it. That's this one. Cool. All right, so in human body, we are going to talk about basically our body. Our body has structure and function. So in the science, we kind of like talk about the human body science as anatomy and physiology. So the difference between anatomy and physiology is that anatomy focus on the structure to identify those structures. And physiology is to talk about their function. And in the anatomy, when we look at the structure, we can look at the structure that you can visibly see. We call it gross anatomy, that you can see it without any, microscope. But the structure can be deep down into cellular level, tissue level, and over there, we will need microscope. So we can also look at the structure in a microscopic level. So we can have gross anatomy and microscopic anatomy. As for the function, we have this structure. Kind of sometimes structure already tell you about the function. We see the muscle, we know that will provide the movement. So you know where it connect to, which bones do they connect to. So you will know that what kind of movement the muscle will provide. We see the nerve connection from point A to point B. So we know that these two must be communicated. So look at the structure, give you the idea about the function. But overall, we can also collect these single identity, single events to become a integrated information. For example, we know muscle contrast, but how do they pro provide the contract, provide the movement to to push the blood to move forward? So you have the muscle contraction moving the blood. Excuse me. Yeah, so that will be the function. So look at the anatomy, look at the structure. We will also look at the function. So the function part is the physiology. In the physiology, we will focus on one thing because that function will basically provide, excuse me, provide the body to maintain a stable situation, like your body temperature, your blood pressures, your blood flow. We want to keep it flow as continuously as stable as possible. So that's a function of provided by those structure. Yeah, so that's the physiology. And in the anatomy and the physiology, we will talk about both. In anatomy, we will talk about anatomy. In physiology, we talk about physiology. In A&P, we talk about both. Yeah. All right, so that's that. So when we look at the structure, we can look into from the gross anatomy, we look at the human organism. Organism is, the individual. We can look at the structure and we can look at the function. We can look at the muscle movement. to provide a function which is drinking. We can look at the how does drinking affecting the fluid movement in the body. So that's the organism. We can also look into downward into the specific organ system. And then in the organ system, we have different kind of organ system, urinary system, cardiovascular system, nervous system. And so those organ system include multiple organs. They work together to perform a specific function. And so in the organ system, we have individual organ. So in this case, we can see the organ. This is part of the urinary system. Urinary system include several organs. For example, you have the kidney, you have the bladder, and you also have a tube to connect this. So that's organ. Looking down to the organ, we can look into tissue. So for example, in the bladder, this organ is formed by smooth muscle. And so we can look into that tissue. And you also have the nerve supply. Those muscles are controlled by the nerve. You also have the epithelial cells lining the in the inner layer of that bladder. So you have different kind of cells forming that organ, different kind of tissues forming that organ. So you have the muscle cell and the epithelium cell lining in the inner layer. That will be the connective tissue. So you have the muscle tissue, connective tissue, nerve tissue, and the fluid inside. Yeah. So you have different tissues forming that organ or that organ. And if we zoom in further, and at this level, you cannot just see it by visual eye. You can still see that's muscle, that's skin, that's fluid, but we don't really see the detailed structure now. So in order to look into the detailed structure, how do they form? How are they formed? We will need we will need microscope. So in that level, it's gonna be like microscopic anatomy or cellular physiology or tissue physiology in that level. So we can look into the cell of that muscle cells, for example, muscle tissues. We can see the muscle cells and we can see that how do they work together? How do they conduct this muscle contraction, like muscle becomes shortening and contrast the bladder so you can pee, right? You squeeze it so you pee out. And all you need to know that these cells are basically, cell is the most like uh, individual, the individual like organism. We can monocellular organism, multicellular organism. Our human body is a multicellular organism. So each cell is alive, basically. Each cell is alive, yeah. So it will grow, it will divide, it will take energy, it will communicate between each other. So each cell is alive. Now, further down, we will break down that cells into, and then, you know that life is formed by molecules, like, and so we can break it down into look at what's the molecule component in it. So we move from like life, biology into chemistry. Yeah. So we can look in the molecule and then further down, each molecule is formed by atom, right? Yeah, so that is the from the very small toward the very large. So that's a structure of basically all organism. It basically all from this structure. All the animal that we can see are multicellular organism, but all the bacteria are single cell organism, and they all come from the atom molecules. Several cells combined together will form tissues, organs, organ system, and the organism. Yeah. So cell is the most smallest one independent function units of life, basically living organism. Yeah. All right. So cell is a single, like most, what do I say? Cell is the smallest independent function. It can work independently. Single cell or cell organism. So each life, the feature of life is that it can duplicate, it can growing bigger, it can multiply, one become two, so it can repeat. And so cell do that, single cells. DNA, here you have nucleus, DNA replication, and then divide in one of, yeah, so cell division. Uh, in We didn't really look into the cell cycles, but from here you can look into cell cycles. Uh, Cell would repeat this over and over from single cell to two cells. Now this one will also repeat this over and over. Yeah, so that is the cell division. Organism reproduce. Single cellular organism reproduce. How about you? Multi-cell organism, do you reproduce? Yes, we all reproduce. So individual will also produce another individual. So this is part of life. We grow and then we divide and then we reproduce. Basically, we can reproduce in our own body, cell reproduce. Between bodies, we also reproduce. Yeah, so this is reproductive system related to reproductive system. So that's that. So we have the cell mitosis, reproductive system. So our body has so that's overall of our body. Our body have different kind of cell. So from here, so we have different kind of molecule, different kind of cells. Our body can be divided into four type of tissue right here. In the tissue level, we have four type of tissue. So what are the four type of tissue? We have the epithelial tissue. What is it? These epithelial tissues are packed cell. So remember that keyword, packed cell, composed of cells closely packed. So individual cells are right next to each other and they are packed. So it provide a layer. And this layer is formed by cells themselves packed. So which tissue type are formed by packed cell? You choose the epithelium cells. Yeah. Where do we see those? We see our skin. The skin cells are packed epithelial cells. We see our, for example, when we look at the bladder, the inner layer of the bladder are also packed cells. You may say that the muscle also formed by packed cell. Yeah, muscle also formed by packed cells. Yeah. But some others tissues do not. Uh, Let me think. Yeah, muscle cells. For the smooth muscle, they are pretty packed. But you need to know that there are three type of muscles: smooth muscle, hard muscle, and the skeletal muscle that voluntary control. The skeletal muscle are not so packed. They are adjacent to each other, but they don't really, they are separate. That's why you can move muscle individually. They each one is kind of operate on its own. You can do fine movement. Yeah, so not all muscle are packed to a level like epithelial cells. So that's epithelial cells. Another type of tissue is called connective tissue. So what's the connective tissue? Loosely dispersed. So that's keyword. So these tissues, cells are there, but they are not packed. They are loosely dispersed. So where do we see those? Connective tissue, for example, our bone. Our bone is connective tissue. Why is it? Because in your bone, majority of the bone is is tight collagen. So basically, it is tight matrix. So it's formed by uh, calcified collagen. So basically, it's it's formed by non-cells basically. So cell are separate, and the connection are those hardened matrix. Hardened matrix are not cells. They are they are we call them extracellular matrix. They are basically secreted protein from the cells. So that's one example. So that's connective tissue. We can also see connective tissue in the a lot of the uh, uh, tissue organ membrane. So organ is formed by epithelium cells, but between organs there are a lot of membrane. If you let's put it this way, if you eat chicken, you will find it, right? If you eat the meat, you will find it. There are layer membrane to separate one muscle to the other, and that membrane is connective tissue. We don't see cells packed over there. Cells are loosely dispersed, and between are collagens, elastin over there. Yeah, so that's connective tissue. Muscle tissues, another one, muscle tissues. So epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue. So what's muscle tissue? The key word is that it provides movement. Yeah, so that's that. So epithelial cell tissues don't provide movement. Connective tissue do not provide the movement, but muscle tissue provide the movement. They can contrast, and so by contrasting, they will change. They make the cell contrast, and then it provide movement. Nerve tissue and another tissues, it provide communication through the connective wire. So basically, we call it yeah. So allow nerve impulse. There's impulse electric signal to communicate between tissue. So they are wired. Like yeah, it's wired basically. Wire connection. So that's four type tissue. You need to know that. So uh, you need to know the features, and then you need to know that what tissue is have that features. So let's just show you the picture of the epithelium cell. You can see that they are packed. Nerve tissue, they are not that packed, but they connect with each other. Yeah, so impulse will travel through the fibers from one location to the other. Muscle tissue look packed, but it's not all muscle tissue are packed to level like epithelial cells. The feature of the muscle tissue is that it contrasts. It can contrast. Yeah. Connective tissue, you can see that this is a cell, that is a cell, that is a cell, that's a cell. So you can see that these cells are not packed. They are loosely dispersed. And what are these things? These are extracellular matrix. So just like your paper matrix, this matrix can be embedded in the fluid, so a lot of fluid. We can have very loose tissue that contains a lot of fluid, like blood. Blood is fluid with loosely dispersed cells, like red blood cells, white blood cells. Or it could be the bone, the tissue can become hardened, the matrix become hardened, or it could be like a tendon. Yeah, so that's that. All right, so that's four type of tissues. From tissue, we can have the organ form, organ system. So this is how we basically teach anatomy and physiology. We basically look into each organ system. Digestive system is to look into how does our bodies have this organ, what's their structure, what's their function to conduct food digestion. So eating food, break it down, and absorb this nutrition. So that's the digestive system. Respiratory system involve multiple organs, including digestive system also involve multiple organs. You have stomach, you have small intestine, large intestine. Respiratory system also involve this respiratory tract. You have your nasal, bring in the air. You have your lung, you have your trachea, bronchial to move the air. So that's the respiratory. Circulation is the blood flow. Involve the heart, involve the vessel. Immune system, lymphatic system is our body defense to fight against the foreign objects. Urinary system or excretory system. So basically, you can look at it as a urinary system. We talk about that. It has a kidney, it has a bladders. Endocrine system is the one to release hormone, and yeah. So there are multiple glands. They release different kind of hormone. Reproductive system, the one which just mentioned earlier. Two individual can produce another individual. So it's pretty amazing. I think it's very, very amazing. And the nervous system, we have a nerve communicate between different region of the body. And over there, we're gonna have a brain. We have the motor nerve. We have sensory nerve. Yeah, so we can talk more into that detail. Muscle system are the muscle do the contraction. We have three type muscle, smooth muscle, hard muscle, and skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle connect with skeleton, so that provide body movement. Smooth muscle and hard muscle do not connect with the bone. Skeletal system are the bone system, provide the structure, provide the movement, provide the protection, like the skeletal protect your brain, protect your organ system. Integumentary system are the skin that is the whole body that protect your whole body. It has multiple function. It can protect you against the bacteria, virus outside of your body. It can also provide you the sensory touch, right? It can also sweat, so control your body temperature. So a lot of function. It also produce vitamin D. When you have the sun exposure, the skin can produce vitamin D. Uh, so I would not recommend you to get sun exposure to get vitamin D because sun also has uh, uh, it can also cause DNA damage. UV light can also cause DNA damage, and so the better way another way I would think is to get it from the diet. Yeah, you can get a vitamin D from the diet or just take the supplement. Yeah. So that's a lot of functions over there. Yeah. So that's structure and function, right? So organ system. So here showing you the picture of this organ system: skin, skeletal, muscle system, nervous system. So it communicate, the wire communicate. Muscle is to do the contraction, to do the movement. Circulation, it involves the heart and the vessel. Cardiovascular system, that's commonly we use cardiovascular system as the terminology instead of circulation. Respiratory include the nasal from your breathing into lung alveoli. So here you have smaller like parts, and so that help you to get into the oxygen and get rid of the CO2. So you have the organ, you have the structure, and you have the function. For the AMP, we have AMP1 and AMP2, and AMP1 will talk half of those, structure and function. AMP2 will talk about the other half, the structure and the function. digestive system. So the function is to get the food, break it down, and absorb it. As you can see, that it involves multiple organs. Collectively, they perform that function. So we call it organ system, right? Not just one organ, it's multiple organs. Immune system, it involves the immune cells. It comes from the bone marrow, and that immune cells circulating in the body, and they are present in the blood. Lymphatic cells, lymphocytes, are in the lymphatic system. Many of them are in the lymphatic system. And so you have the structure and you have the function. Urinary system is to provide the urine. Basically, the function is to filter the blood, basically, to clean your blood. And the endocrine system, you can see that we have multiple glands. Their function is to produce hormone. We also have a reproductive system. We have the male one to produce sperms, female one to produce the oocytes, and also in the female, it's also the place we have the fetal development in the uterus. Yeah, so that's a reproductive system. So that's our bodies overall, different structure, different organ system. And how do we study it? We will look into each organ system. But before we jump into those organ systems, let's understand some terminology. So here, we will need to know how do we describe the position and the orientation. They include when we talk about the superior, what does it mean? It means up. Inferior means lower. Anterior means front. Posterior means back. Medial means central. Lateral means side. Proximal means close. It depends on where you look at. So it's proximal to A, it could be distal to B, right? So we have proximal, distal, that's how we describe it. Okay. Superficial, more external. Peripheral, something similar. More peripheral. Deep means more internal. Ipsilateral is like two things are on the same side of body. We call them ipsilateral. Contralateral are two things are the opposite side of body. We're left side, right side. So that's how we describe it. So let's look at some picture. Superior. Superior means top. Inferior means lower. We sometimes also call cranial. Caudal means tail. Anterior, front. Posterior, back. Yeah, so move the anterior side, anterior portion of the brain, or anterior portion of the heart, posterior portion of the heart. Yeah, so that's that. Medial, close to the medial, moving toward the medial. So that's the middle. Lateral is side. Proximal is close by. It depends on where you're, which object that you refer to, right? Same thing as to the distal, which depending on which object you are talking about, refer to. It's distal means away. Superficial means more like skin, superficial, or peripheral means like outer, not the central. Deep or internal, deep portion. Ipsilateral like ipsilateral leg, ipsilateral arm, ipsilateral brain hemisphere. Yeah, so that's the same side. Like your And the contralateral is opposite side. So for example, our brain control the contralateral side of the muscle movement. Yeah, so this side of the brain control the opposite side of the body movement. So that's just how our brain wired. Yeah. So that's contralateral. Another thing we also, this is more like when we do the medical imaging, we will discuss how do we acquire the imaging. We can acquire the imaging in three planes. So we have the sagittal plane. So this is a sagittal view, sagittal. And in the sagittal plane, you will just get the imaging about this plane. So that's sagittal plane. Uh, yeah, sometimes sagittal plane is very good at looking at the brainstem because with the sagittal plane you can view very clearly about the pontine and the medulla. We also commonly use coronal plane, so that's this plane. This plane will show you both left and right hemisphere, but in this orientation. So coronal plane might be a good option when we look at the lung because you're gonna present the two lungs on both sides of the present both on the same picture, and so you can see the comparison. You can see if there's fibrosis, if there is a pneumonia, etc. So that's a coronal plane. We can also do the transverse plane. So transverse plane like this one here. So transverse plane can also show you both left and right hemisphere. And this could be a good imaging for your lung. Yeah, we can also do that for lung. For the abdominal organ system, look into the cross section of the leg, cross section of the arm. Yeah, so that's three plants. So if I block this, you will know, right? You will know that what plants is it? What plant is it? Coronal plant, sagittal plant, transverse plant. We also have movement direction. So this is in addition to when we talk about these. So this is not movement. This is just still. But we talk about medial, lateral, superior, inferior. We can also talk about the direction of the movement. So the direction of movement, including the abduction, meaning moving away from the medial. Abduction, moving toward the medial. Flexion, meaning your angle is the angle of your joints is reduced. So that movement, flexion, is to reduce your angle, reduce the angle of your joint. So it depends on what angle you talk about. So here is talking about the shoulder, reduce that angle, and extension. You can also see the flexion. This one is the hip angle, reduce the angle, extension to extend it. You can see that this one is extension. Basically, this is when people, before they run, they will pull their legs to extend their hip uh, joint in order to extend it and make the movement become smoother when they are running. Flexor, reduce it. That's the same thing here. So extensor flexor. You can also moving for forward rotation. That your shoulder can rotate because your shoulder is formed by uh, uh, the head of a bone in the socket, and this one can rotate. And this rotation can be rotate forward or backward. So you have forward rotation, backward rotation. Your shoulder movement has multiple direction. You can do the depression, elevation, and your foot heel can also do multiple plantar flexor, plantar. So here is the plantar, sorry, plantar flexor, dorsal flexor. So plantar meaning that is the bottom of your foot. So you reduce that angle. Otherwise, is is pretty large, and you reduce it. So this is plantar flexor. On the other side will be the dorsal. Dorsal is the back flexor. And eversion, rotate outward, inversion, rotate inward. And again, here we have the abduction, adduction, moving to the middle or away from the middle, flexion, lateral flexion, reduce the angle, reduce the angle in one direction or the other. Extension is to extend the angle, and then rotation, external rotation, rotate to the outward, internal rotation, rotation to the inward. So that's the movement direction. Yeah, so you will see more about this one when you moving into more like exercise related field or physical therapy. They use this term quite often. Our body also have a look into these organs, where they are located. They are located in the major like body cavities. Basically, this is space prepared for these organs. And so the space include the cranial cavity. That's where you have the brain. Vertebral cavity. That's for where you have the spinal cord, spinal nerve. And thoracic cavity, where you have the lung. And in the thoracic cavity, you can also have a smaller region or like a compartment. We call it superior mediastinum. And the lower portion here is called the pericardial cavity. And so the whole thing here is the media mediastinum, superior and the lower portion. Underneath the diaphragm, you have the abdominal cavity. So later we have the picture to show you the abdominal cavity. Here you have the pelvic cavity. And so this basically is within your hip bone. And so here you have the pelvic cavity. So yeah, so that's that. If I ask you to label, you will know, right? You will need to know that what's the cavity uh, uh are they? All right, so when we look into the abdominal cavity, it's kind of big. And so we can separate into four uh, uh, quarters in a way. You have the right upper quadrant, left upper quadrant, right lower. So when we look at picture, we look at the patient. So this patient seeing you. So is his or her left, right. That's his or her left. Yeah, so that's how we identify it. Or we can separate into like 9 regions. Right, hypochondriac region, epigastric sorry, regions, and the right lumbar, left lumbar, umbilical regions, right iliac. So this bone is called ilium. Right iliac region, left iliac region, hypogastric, lower right hypo. Yeah, hypo means lower. So that's the region. All right, our body has these membrane. I think that's the last thing we will talk about and before and okay, so our body has this membrane to wrap this tissue, these organs. We have three major membranes. So these membranes are example of the connective tissue that I mentioned earlier. So here we talk about the connective tissue. We have four type tissue. The connective tissue right here are the one of the region you find the connective tissue is this membrane. So we have three major membrane to protect, to wrap around. So basically we try to, when they move, they are not have the direct like friction between different organs, right? So they are protected in a way. So these membranes are include the pleura. This membrane cover the lung. Peritoneum cover the abdominal cavity. Pericardium cover the heart. So these membrane are basically, let me draw it. Maybe it's easier. So I think I can just draw it here. So this membrane basically is like this. So this is continuous tissue, connective tissue. So you can see that. And do they cover? No, they don't cover. They do this way. So this tissue will continue and then they will meet each other in the end. So two ends will meet each other like that. All right. So that is a membrane. So membrane has two layers. And so here you can put your abdominal organ inside, you can put your lung inside, you can put your heart inside. So that's the membrane. So if this is the lung, this is pleura. If this is the abdominal tissue organs, this is called peritoneum. If this is heart, we call it pericardium. So in this membrane, it has two sides, one side and then the other side. The side facing the organs, we call it visceral. I think I can stop. Okay, I can stop drawing. Right here. Right. So this membrane, right, has the has a visceral side. Visceral side is the one to facing the organ. Outside, not facing the organ, is more thick, is more durable. This outside is called parietal. So parietal side, visceral. Parietal membrane, visceral membrane. Parietal pleura, visceral pleura. Parietal pericardium, visceral pericardium. Parietal peritoneum, visceral peritoneum. So that is two sides. And between these, let's go back to here. Between these, we have the fluid. So this two layer has a fluid between, and so it's like it has a protection. So this two layer will not rip. They will be also be protected. Yeah. So that's that. Let me clean it. So I won't be bothered by looking at it. Clear or drawing. Good. All right. So that's that. All right. So we have this pleura. This one basically they meet in the here. Yeah. So pleura cover lung, pericardium cover the heart. Here you go. You can see that this is the layer, and then meet here, something like that. Yeah. Okay. So this is a peritoneum. They cover the uh visceral, sorry, the abdominal cavity. Yes. So it also each one of them has the visceral membrane and the parietal. For it, this is a rib, lung, parietal, pleura, and these inside should be visceral pleura. This diaphragm. Heart, you have the heart, parietal cardium, visceral cardium right here. and this is between it. So between this one, we also call it cavity. It contains the fluid, serous fluid. Yeah. Same thing here. You have the parietal. Where is that? Where is the parietal? Here, parietal, and then the visceral peritoneum, and so here anterior, posterior. No, now we know where we see it. The front, the back. The back you have the bone. This is the vertebra or bone. Yeah. And then this one is artery, the veins. This is peritoneal cavity with the fluid, with the serous fluid. Stomachs here, kidney, two kidneys located closer to your posterior portion of your abdominal cavity, the wall of your body trunk. Yeah. Liver right here, very big organ. So yeah, so we talk about this one. Each membrane has two sides, visceral sides and the parietal sides. And between these, we have the serous fluid. So that's probably everything we need to know about, an introduction of the human body. Before we really finish this portion of lecture, um, here is the kind of like surface of your human body, and you just need to know the terminology. So from the anterior, here anterior view, toward the posterior view, from the superior or cranial toward the inferior. So you need to know their name when we say it. You need to know what we are talking about. We have the forehead and cranium, the skull of the cranial cavity, basically. Facial, uh, oral, oris is the muscle of the mouth. Uh, Mentis or mental or chin. This mental is the same word as your mental, but different meaning here. Mental, mentis. Uh, Axilla, okay. Armpit, basically. Brachial, like branch. It's coming from the branch, brachial. Cubis, so this is where you do the blood pressure measurement. Yes, blood pressure measurement. You put your uh the earpiece at the antecubitus, anti bronchium, another branch, right? The forearm. Carpal, this is people have carpal syndrome. This is the wrist. And then you have the hand. In the hands, you have the pollex, you have palm, you have your fingers, or we call it digits, or phalanges. And so that's arm, upper limbs, basically. And you have the neck, cervix. You have the eyes or ocular or cheeks, bucca, ear or oris, and your neck, or so cervical. Cervical is neck. Your chest, right? Thoracic cavity, we just talked about it. Thoracis or thorax, chest, thoracis. Mommy gland or mama or breast, mammary gland. That's female. For female, you have the mammary gland to produce the milk. Abdomen, umbilical, hip, or coxal. Coxal is another name for hip. Pelvis, pelvic cavity, your groin, and or inguine, pubic. This is basically the pelvic bone, and in the front portion here, and your leg, you have the femoral. That's the upper leg, and the lower leg. You have the crus or leg. This one is thigh, femur. This one, yeah. Femur is also called the refer to the bone here, and the crus, the leg. Between here you have the knee, right? So you have the patella, that's a bone actually. Knee bone, kneecap, patella, yeah. And then you have the crus, and then you underneath you have your foot. Between your leg and your foot, you have your ankle, and and the bone connect with the ankle is called tarsus or tarsal, yeah. And then you have your foot, and then you have a pedal, and then you have your toe or hallux, and the digits again. So that's the front. When you look at the back, we will have the shoulder. That's you can also see shoulder here. In the back is this is the dorsum, the back dorsal. Back is your dorsal, and the rostrum and olecranon. Olecranon is this little this bone. You can feel it, and so basically that basically control the limit of your your joint. Lumbus. Uh, we basically use this refer to the thoracic vertebra, lumbar vertebra, sacrum, the lower portion of your vertebra, and this is your upper limbs, lower limbs, and here is again head, the neck, or cephalon, or head, cervicals, or neck. And this is your we call it a gluteus. Yeah, manus is another term for the hands. It doesn't show it here, but it shows here, manus. And this is femoral. I think that's the same thing here. Here, femorals or the side. This is back of your knee. We call it popliteus. Popliteus. And then you have the lower portion of your leg, which is in the back is called sura. And then here is again the calcaneus. It doesn't show it here. Tarsal is the bone of your foot, actually that portion is called calcaneus. And then the plantar, we talked about that earlier. Plantar, where do we see it? We see here. Plantar flexor right here. Plantar flexor. So this is a plantar. So this is plantar, planta, or sole. Yeah. So that's that. So that's yeah. So we will a lot of terminology. The way to memorize it is a repetition. Basically, just look at it and name it. Um, yeah. But this is the beginning of our lecture and the beginning of our human body, and those are the major region that we need to be familiar with. All right. So that's for the lecture. That's for this lecture, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.